Hello everyone, welcome to Fishin, the podcast where we discuss Commander's most competitive tribe and help the whole community become better Merfolk players. I'm Kody, one of the co-hosts of this show, and not Kody Smith on Twitter. And we also have, as always, Matt, who you can find on Twitter as
Matthew Caudilli.
I always take different variations on like how long I'm gonna go in the little script, so I apologize. Matt never knows where I'm gonna stop.
I don't read the scripts anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
I also mess up about 98.76% of the time doing that intro, so this
actually takes 7.
Yeah, it was really bad. Fred Durst was involved. It was terrible.
We were talking Fred Durst, but we're gonna leave that off air.
Yes,
unless Kody wants to splice in some Limp Bizkit, which I'm okay with.
Oh man, if you have a tip, it will be frosted by the end of this podcast. We would like to. I mean, we kind of buried the lead a little bit, but we would like to introduce our special guest, Russel. How you doing, Russel?
I'm doing okay. How's it going?
Oh, we're doing great. I'm doing great. I'm not going to speak for Matt.
I'm doing fantastic. I got to play Commander with our play group, which I'm gonna still consider Kody our play group because even though he left us, and it's the first time we've gotten together in like 8 months, and we played a game where we all agreed to no degenerate commanders, so we actually got to play for like a 3 hours straight. And if that's not the best part, my son took a poop in the potty today. For most people, this means absolutely nothing. For me, this is like crack a bottle of champagne because I see the light at the end of the tunnel. I am almost out of diapers.
Seriously, that is like, you need to put some applause right in here because that is the best. Every dad, every parent, every mom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, diapers gone, the best day of my daughter's life.
Like literally an hour and a half ago, like me and my wife are like high-fiving over top of this giant stinking turd. I mean, this thing was massive too for a 2-year-old.
We're just
nice.
We're just getting to the point with my youngest where she's starting to be like dry at the end of the night. So it's like all right, we're starting to get into like the last one. Like let's get this last one past the goalpost, and then like we'll be finally done with this just like bottomless expense. If you don't know how much diapers cost, when next time you're at Walmart, just stop by the baby aisle and look at just like the economy size pack of diapers and realize you have to buy that pack 2 to 3 times a month at the baseline.
Because this is a Magic podcast, and I do want to talk about my Commander night just for 1 second. So we agreed to not play degenerate commanders. So I built a Gob deck like literally last second. And my whole goal was to put almost no combos in there. And if I did put a combo, I promised I would not win with it. So I have this incredibly awesome Gob deck put together, and it's almost like Fungus Tribal with like probably a $2,000 mana base. And after I finished playing, all I could say was I have too many good cards in here. I need more Fungus cards from Fallen Empires because it was so much fun. So I cannot wait to play more janky Commander. I got to stop playing good Commanders. Janky Commander is so much better.
Oh, then you're gonna love this deck. This is the best part.
Oh no! I've been looking through it. Your deck is actually really cool. Because okay, we're gonna stop because I'm gonna start spoiling stuff, and we got other things we got to do before we talk about it.
So
if people can't tell, we love Commander here.
Yes, we're all three of us are big Commander people. So before we get into introducing Russell a little bit more, remember that you could find us on Patreon to support us monetarily at patreon.com/fishcastmtg, like Russell continues to do. So thank you, Russell, in person for being a great patron. And we also have a new patron. Actually, became a patron literally, I think 30 minutes after we recorded our last episode. So we couldn't have him pick a random Merfolk. But Joel E is our new patron. So thank you, Joel, for being a new patron and supporting the fish.
I did my best, Joel. I know Kody put you into the Discord chat that night after we finished recording. So I'm sitting there like in bed, my wife is like snoring, and I'm like trying to like text you back and like have a conversation. I think I fell asleep with my phone in my hand, so I wasn't being rude. Please PM me. Let's talk some more cards. Let's talk some Commanders, some Modern. I know you said you are more of a kitchen table player, and that is my favorite format. So let's talk some cards. But you know what? It doesn't have to be just Joel. You don't have to be a patron to talk cards with us. If you want to just talk kitchen table, you want to talk competitive, you want to talk I don't know, about Limp Bizkit and Fred Durst, just hit us up on either Twitter or Discord or whatever internet device is out there. And even if I don't know about it, Kody will at least send me screenshots and forward it to me.
Oh yeah, no. So yeah, just send us. We love talking to you. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter as @FishcastMTG. We love talking all sorts of Merfolk or even just Magic in general. I mean, we don't only play Merfolk around here, and especially, I mean, Matt doesn't play Merfolk, so he literally plays everything else. So feel free to talk. And I know Russell would love to talk to you about all things Commander and probably just Magic in general as well. So. Yeah, so Russell, tell us a little bit about yourself before we go into the random Merfolk.
Well, I mean, there's not much to say. I'm just a guy who plays Magic, much like everyone else here. We're guys who play Magic. I originally picked up the game around Urza Saga, and in the depths of Combo Winter, and it was literally the most awesome displays of power I'd ever seen, and I was hooked because Tolarian Academy is my absolute favorite, and it is a travesty that is banned to Commander, but that is a completely different diatribe altogether.
I agree. I want to talk about this just for 1 second. There are a few cards that I think should be unbanned in Commander. Sheldon, please start listening to our podcast and listen to this little tirade. There are certain cards that 100% no one should ever touch, but I think that's one card that play groups can police themselves and should be legal. Mostly because I just really want to play it myself.
Right? I mean, it's either unban Academy or just ban Cradle and Sarah Sanctum. It's fine. Get them all or get them all gone.
Preach. Preach.
Or add a red
preach
version.
And tap and steal a creature.
I would love a red one. That'd be
pretty sweet.
the red cycle for that was Shivan Gorge, tap and deal 1 damage.
We don't talk about Shivan Gorge at all.
That is literally the redheaded stepchild of the best block or the best cycle ever.
Yeah, I mean, even Phyrexian Tower.
Phyrexian Tower is amazing.
Yeah, which compared to Cradle is kind of garbage comparatively, is still scores better than Shivan Gorge because Shivan Gorge is hot, smoldering garbage.
Yeah, so it's
honestly, and this might just be more personal opinion because I've had more success with it, but I think Phyrexian Tower is better than Sarah Sanctum.
Well, so let's say we lined them up Brooklyn Nine-Nine style on a giant wall, and we forced them to sing the Backstreet Boys. Shivan Gorge would be the one at the end that killed the girl's sister, right? That. All the rest of them, okay, whatever, you guys are doing your thing, but
Shivan Gorge would be the Joey Fatone of NSYNC. Why are you here?
Yeah, well, it is what it is. Yes. But so you played during Urza Saga, and you saw some degenerate Magic being played. And you got hooked. But where did you go from there?
So from there, I actually stopped playing after high school because I moved across the country to Washington. Again, this makes no sense in hindsight. Where
Emerald Isle of Washington.
Yeah. So in hindsight, going to the place where Magic is born sounds like a great time to stop playing Magic altogether. High school kids are dumb and never get rid of your cards ever. So then I got back in around Zendikar, and because Zendikar is pretty much D&D, the card game.
I'm assuming you're talking about original Zendikar?
Yes.
Okay.
Otherwise, I would say Battle 4. And I know the other people shorthand it, but when you do that, you gotta be specific. Otherwise, you have Ravnica. Which time? Yeah. So many Ravnica.
We are gonna have to start using dates with Ravnica.
Yeah. Ravnica 1, Ravnica 2, Ravnica.
Ravnica
oh God,
16,
what time?
Ravnica 18.
Ravnica October 1997.
I'm still waiting. Yeah, Ravnica in space. That's the next step, really.
I would be all about that. Jason, a little space costume.
And it's still blue. It has the dumb hood.
But his space costume has his belly showing, so you can see his abs.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
You got to show off those new sweet abs he's got.
Exactly.
So you got to Ravnica, which is D&D, the Magic campaign.
Zendikar.
Sorry, Zendikar. You got to
Zendikar. And So I was adamant about not getting back into Magic, and I would fill out drafts in my local comic shop, which I actually worked at, and we were starting to host events. And I would sell off fetch lands to pay for the draft fees because I'm not getting into this game, and they were like $10-15 a piece. So,
Well, hey, I mean that's like if it helps you play Magic, then like that's kind of a way that a lot of people invest into Magic is they're more interested in the play aspect rather than the financial aspect, and that's a perfectly viable way. So if you're looking to play more Magic, sell your Magic cards. Like you'll if all you do is draft, then just sell your bomb rares that you get, because guess what, you can draft more that way.
To be fair, I mean the kicker on this is, more than anything, I hate draft. I despise drafting more than anything because I don't want to play a mini game before I actually get to play Magic.
That's fair. That's a fair assessment.
And people love it. That's fine. You, by all means, have all of my draft experience. You can take it. I want nothing to do with it. And a friend of mine, back when I was like, all right, I'm here. I've actually acquired cards now. Taught me about Commander. And this is like, it was awesome because it was great not having to have a whole lot of cards or a whole lot of the same kind of cards. A playset being a single card is legit the most awesome thing in the world.
So here's a perfect question. When you first started playing, was it Commander or was it EDH?
Oh, it was EDH.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, I still remember.
So you're an OG.
Oh yeah, but I like saying Commander because it's official, and Commander just sounds better. I have to explain what EDH is to newbies.
Fair. Fair.
And I remember we first got the.
I like sounding like an old bass, so I still use EDH.
Real OGs know the zip code and the following four.
I need the autofill to actually do that for me, because I never know what the following four are for any zip codes. But fortunately, technology takes care of all of that.
So being a Commander aficionado, you actually had for some time a Commander podcast, which I already said before this podcast went live, I absolutely adored, which was Commander Clinic. And
And actually, we're going to break some news tonight. Apparently, the podcast is coming back, very similar to Fishin, but it's going to be a squirrel tribal podcast, correct?
No, maybe. It's really up in the air. It's a formless, shapeless idea.
Primal Clay, maybe?
A Primal Clay of podcast.
So changeling the podcast.
Changing the podcast. We're all tribes here. It's just one big, happy, infinite family.
Well, we're super excited to see where that podcast ends up, and believe me, we both myself and Matt, I'm sure, are very excited to hear how that whatever shape that ends up taking, we'll be there along to support you and listen and all that fun stuff.
No, absolutely. And I mean, we're joking around a lot tonight, but I'm very much looking forward to it. Please let us know. We will signal boost, and we'll be right there first in line to be listening.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. It'll be fun. I've been talking to some really awesome people, and the one thing I keep coming back to is two things. One, I'm going to stick with like the half-hour time frame because that seems to work out really well, and you can do a lot in half an hour. And the other one is that I'm going to have be more community focused. Literally, not have one or two co-hosts, but everybody I'm going to be casting with will be literally just people from the community who are going to come and talk with me about things. And we're going to focus on fun and
That's
flavor.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's exactly how we should probably run our podcast. We shoot for a half hour and we never make it. And Kody probably should be having other people with me, but he's too lazy to find somebody else, and I just keep showing up. So
yeah, when the door knocks and I open it and it's just Matt, I'm just like, all right, just come on in, let's go.
I guess we're here again.
All right, so we're going to jump into with all that behind us now. We are going to jump into. I think this is the latest we've ever done a random Merfolk, like the latest in the podcast. We generally jump straight into it, but we wanted to get to know Russell a little bit. And if you haven't followed Russell on Twitter, he'll give you the information at the end. Follow Russell on Twitter; he's pretty great.
Actually, let's let Russell give his Twitter handle right now because I think we're going to run pretty late. So to make sure people actually listen to it.
Yeah.
So if you haven't given up by now and you can't make it all the way to the end, you can find me on Twitter at Rogue Artificer. Yep.
This is internet gold. If you're giving up now, there's something wrong with you.
If your tips aren't frosted by now.
Some people are in it for the long haul. It's okay. I mean.
All right, so we're going to jump into the random Merfolk card. And we actually have a great one. Joel picked random Merfolk number 72, and I forced Google to watch 7,000 hours of Merfolk gameplay, and this is what was spit out. And it's pretty terrible. Who wants to read this one?
Russell's going to. He's the guest.
Not it. Oh.
I guess I'll. Because you're the guest, I will approve of that, and I will read it then. It is so we have Jace's Sentinel. It is 1 blue, 1 of anything. It is a 1/3 creature Merfolk wizard. It's an uncommon.
It's not a wizard.
Warrior. Merfolk warrior. They're all wizards.
It's a warrior, Matt.
I just kept moving on. So anyway, you're gonna really correct me. I mean, no one's gonna look at the card, our darn card.
I will Kid Rock radio censor you there.
I appreciate that. So anyway, it's an uncommon from Ixalan. As long as you control Jace Planeswalker, Jace's Sentinel gets +1/+0 and can't be blocked. And the flavor text is, "We drove the Sun Empire out of the forest long ago, and we will not let them return." So, if you're gonna play Commander Jace Tribal, sure.
That's really the only place this goes. I mean, there are way better cards that can't be blocked.
I mean, essentially, if you're playing Jace Tribal Commander, you have to play just for flavor wise. Otherwise, you wouldn't play this anyway.
So you have to run everything with the word Jace in the title, and if you stop, then you run out of room, or you're cheating.
So the biggest thing for me is like the only good thing about this card is like the art is amazing. I think it's really cool. It reminds me of a Deeproot Elite who's wearing like that just like gigantic like commando armor. And the flavor text is awesome. But there's
It reminds me of Warhammer 40K.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
It looks like I'm gonna go super duper nerd right now. It looks like Karn the Betrayer from Warhammer 40K. He's just gonna go out there and kill some Tyranids. 2 people understand what I'm talking about, but that's okay.
And I'm not one of them.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's fine.
But so
Tim Digital Llama knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Tim knows. But so there's 2 reasons why you've probably never seen this card. Number 1, it is garbage incarnate. Like it is a bad Magic card. But number 2, it was only printed in the Ixalan intro deck. So it is technically standard legal, but the only way you can get it is by buying the intro deck. So like you would not see this. There's no reason for people to be running this. I think Russell said it perfectly. Russell and Matt both said it. Unless you're running a Jace Tribal Commander deck, I don't see any reason to have this in.
The best part is with the current economy, like so with some of these like random intro deck cards, it's gonna end up being like $5 because it's just gonna be so dang rare.
And
there's like.
I do have to actually end up getting 4 of them for the History of Merfolk project. But there's just...
You better get them now before I buy them out.
Oh, no. Oh, no. You'll beat me to it and you'll charge me the promo amount. Well, okay. So I guess we're done with Jace's Sentinel. Sorry, Jace's Sentinel. You're in an intro deck for a reason. All right.
You're a shower, not a grower.
I never understood that about like the intro products. It's like, do you just intentionally introduce new players to garbage because you don't want them to play the game? It's really one of those things that yes, you want cards to be simple, easy to grok, but just have them being so bad. I don't know how people stick with the game to come just from intro decks and stuff.
I don't want to go on too much of a tangent because we have a lot to talk about, and I think we're going to run late anyway. But I think again, and Russell's an old enough player where he'll understand what I'm talking about. The original starter and portal sets were actually really good for intro players because it actually had some really decent cards with decent power levels that experienced players would want, but it also had mechanics watered down enough that new players could come in and actually learn the game. So it kind of had a little bit of something for everybody. For example, for those who don't know, the original portal and starter decks didn't have any instants in there. It was all sorceries, and they're really described what the abilities were. So I think if they brought a product like that back, would be a lot better than this. Because I completely agree. Like outside of somebody who's just completely brand new to the game, or a grandma going to Walmart to buy their kid something, or their grandchild something. I mean, this is. I mean, it's unplayable. I mean, no one would ever want to buy it. I've never bought one of the intro decks, and I never will. But they're not for me though.
But yeah, let's move on because
Yeah.
it's depressing. Let's talk about fun things like
All right.
drowning.
Yeah, so Russell kind of led into it. We're going to be discussing Russell's Ambassador Laquatus deck, and I know that Ambassador Laquatus has been brought up in the show before because not only have we discussed him in a lore context, but we also talked about him on our briefly on our top 5 Merfolk commander list. And so this is actually a really unique deck, and I was looking at the list before we went live here, and this is just super fun looking. Like I'll let Russell take it away and kind of explain a little bit about what's going on with the deck.
Okay, so quick question: have either of you seen a little movie called The Little Mermaid?
Yes,
I've seen it once or twice.
Okay. This is pretty much the premise of the deck. It is to drop as much of your stuff into your graveyard, get value of it from your fish swimming and getting them stuff for you, and going from there. There are some other interactions that are pretty cool, but really, to try to mill a player out with Ambassador Laquatus' ability is a fool's errand, and I don't like to send myself or other people on fool's errands unless it's super fun. So
Well, actually, one of the things that Kody and I talked about when we talked about Ambassador Lanquist, way back when, it was one of the actually top 10 episodes or first 10 episodes that we did. And I said I think we were just kind of going through our top 5 Merfolk commanders. I think he was a honorable mention or something along those lines. He didn't make our tops, but the reason why is because we thought he was very one-dimensional. That most people are going to do is try to create infinite mana as quickly as possible and just mill out the board and call it a game. But you're not doing that, which I think is absolutely amazing.
Yes, because infinite combos, while I will put them in decks because they're good, and get boring after a while. So I said that's all you're going to do. Mm-hmm. And Laquatus deserves a bit more than that. He's an ambassador. He has a nightmare, and there's a lot going on here. So,
and actually, one thing I want to say before you dive into the deck, I wanted to do more fish.
Zing.
I wanted to do more fish puns, but I've decided I'm going to scale back a little bit. Anyway, so the flavor text on the recent Merfolk looter, which I think is kind of appropriate, and it's a Merfolk, kind of swimming away from like a shipwreck, and it says Merfolk don't always know what they're looking for, but they're certain once they find it. And I think that's kind of similar to like what you're going for, where you're kind of like you said, you're milling yourself, you're putting things down deep, and you're letting your Merfolk swim up with it. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Because blue has mostly early blue, less so these days, where it has a lot of really cool artifact recursion. Because blue is the big artifact color, and even though red will have swap stuff out like with Goblin Welder and Trash for Treasure and the Ilk, blue will have cards like Argivian Restoration, which is literally refurbish before refurbish was a thing. Color pie shifts notwithstanding, you still have a lot of things that interact with artifacts and artifacts in the graveyard specifically, and there's just enough here, and there's enough cards to use your artifacts to also recur themselves. We'll have like, where is it? Trading Post, which is literally a great card, which is tragically underplayed because it's a planeswalker you can't attack. It's an artifact, but it does like 4 different things, and you almost always want to gain life, get goats, or return an artifact from your graveyard to your hand, or just draw a card.
I think Jason Alt is famous for saying that it's the artifact planeswalker.
Yeah,
that nobody asked for.
But it's so useful. It does a lot. And even if you only use like 2 or 3 of the abilities, it's worth it because every so often you'll find a use for something that you're like, oh, I need to save my life here. Goodbye card. Hello for life. I got another turn. Maybe. If you're lucky. But it also, when you discard the cards in here, that helps fuel your recursion as well because you want cards in the graveyard. One thing I really wish I had thought of that when I was drafting the deck before was Runechanter's Pike. And if you upped the instants and sorceries a little bit more, you have another backdoor with Laquatus and just spearing somebody with the sweet spear he found in the ocean.
Yeah, so real quick before, just if people don't know what it is, Runechanter's Pike is 2 mana for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature has first strike and gets +X+0, where X is the number of instants or sorcery cards in your graveyard and has equip 2. And actually that'd be kind of sweet because like, you know, Merfolk, I mean, like if we look at the Tritons on Theros, they have their Bidents, you know, with Thassa, and it's you know, with even like in the Little Mermaid, Ariel's dad kind of runs around with the Triton. I'm gonna have to just add in some.
No, his name is Triton. He holds a trident.
Oh right, okay, yeah. I'm sorry. It's been
now get it right or pay the price.
It's been about 25 years since I've seen The Little Mermaid, so you're gonna have to forgive me.
2-year-old daughter, what's wrong with you?
Well, she also has 2 older brothers, so she falls asleep with a Batman doll. But
nice.
but so like this is definitely.
By the way, if you haven't been on Twitter watching Zoe sing the Batman song, it's absolutely adorable. And what's wrong with you?
I'll have to repost it here because she will sing it on command. You're just like, you just go no, and she'll just take it away from there. It's great. But anyway, so yeah, Runechanter's Pike is actually like really cool, and like you said, this would be a cool addition as just kind of an alternate win condition because who's gonna blow up Runechanter's Pike? But then you just mill yourself for a bunch and swing it unblockable, and there you go.
It's true. And it's one of those things I really wish I had looked at the deck a bit more because I was seeing another one, a card that could have really gone in here, especially with the looting effects or a couple mass looting effects in here with Geth's Grimoire, which is a 4 mana artifact. Whenever an opponent discards a card, you draw a card. Plays really well with Jace's Archivist or Gaia Reach Sanitarium, where you're creating windfall effects or you're having people discard their cards. Hey, which reminds me, what do you guys know about Memory Jar?
Oh, I love Memory Jar.
So I memory jarred last night. So after the fun game, we played Pull Out Your Mean decks because we have to call this night pretty quickly. And yeah, Memory Jar did some work for me. It's just absolutely amazing.
I one time had a judge call because I had multiple Memory Jar triggers on the stack. in my Boros Jorka Bling deck, and we had to have multiple people come around and go like, okay, so how does this and it ended up that if there's multiple Memory Jar exile triggers on the stack, you get to choose which one you keep, which hand you keep at the end.
Oh, nice.
Just for future reference.
So originally the Memory Jar is in there to effectively help mail yourself and your opponents a little bit. Also, it's a nice little thing that you can find at the bottom of the ocean in a sunken ship.
Oh, a jar, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the artifacts you'll in here are pretty much going to be things that you'll find either at the bottom of the ocean or on the ocean. The Conqueror's Galleon, a dowsing dagger. I'm not sure how books work in the ocean, but we'll figure that out later. And it's cool because the thing I have most fun in playing Commander, especially these days because I build more decks than I ever get to play, is building the theme, building the flavor, and imagining how this happens in the game.
Dude, this is Flavor Town. I didn't realize this, but this is 100% like grade A Flavor Town. I'm rereading every card now. I'm like, oh my god, I see it. I saw the sign. It opened up my eyes, and I saw the sign.
Welcome, my friend. Yeah, so I mean, it's like there are definitely some redundancies here could be trimmed back. There's a lot of room for improvement on the deck. Definitely, it's a rough draft, but there are some things that you keep just for play, like Worry Beads is a 3-mana artifact. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player puts the top card of their library into their graveyard. It's not great, but there's a Merfolk on the card, and it mills, and it just does it without having to do anything. So it stays in the deck. It's not great, but it stays in the deck because you have 99 cards to play with. If you can't put 1 or 2 cards in there that just make you feel satisfied in your soul to play, why are you playing Magic?
I definitely
Here,
like
here.
that. Yeah,
Here,
no,
here.
I'm a big fan of that, and you know, it's like it's one of those things that like I run the I believe it's Outpost Siege, the red siege.
Oh, it's so good
And
though.
the thing is like I've had people tell me, "Oh, why do you have that in your deck? It's so garbage." And it's like nobody blows it up. You know, it's like worry beads. Worry beads can sit there and just kind of just like, you know, if the game goes 10, 11, 12 turns, you know what? You've milled a tenth of their deck. Like nobody's gonna mess with worry beads. Like they've got other people doing broken things, and you're playing with worry beads. So
Exactly.
it's a great
Absolutely.
tactic.
Yeah. I mean, and there are, let's see. Oh, another little thing, which where is it? I can never find it when I wanted it, because it's Rootwater, not Merfolk in the title. Rootwater Diver, which was definitely one of the early inspirations for the deck as well, from Tempest. So 1/1 Merfolk for blue, but you tap and sacrifice it and return an artifact from the graveyard to your hand. Blue doesn't get to tutor for artifacts. It's not white, and that's okay. And that was the other reason that I thought about this. Of I just dump my library into my graveyard, and then use these blue recursion effects. I get basic black systematic. I'm tutoring in a roundabout way, and it's more fun.
And you get literally anything you want.
Yes.
Now I'm gonna call you out because there are some blue tutors. We have Tinker, which obviously is banned, but you have a blue tutor in this deck in Tezzeret, the Seeker.
Okay, well, if you want to get technical, I have 2, but the Tezzeret the Seeker.
I just like saying Tezzeret because he's French.
Tezzeret.
Tezzeret the Seeker, I love with all my heart. It broke my heart when he was during Aether Revolt. It's when I actually checked out the story, because he was such a mustache twirling, like Dudley Do-Right villain, and it was like he deserves better. He's a jerk. He's a bad guy, and that's okay. But he's not a bully bad guy, which is awful.
I love how you use the term mustache twirling, like it's just like a Sherlock Holmes villain, like yeah, or a Scooby Doo villain, like I'm gonna steal all the gum from this gum factory.
Mark Rosewater's gonna troll you next time Tezzeret comes up, and he's gonna have like a giant mustache, and he's gonna have his like finger and a piece of it.
He'll turn his arm into a mustache twirling device.
Exactly. There you go. Here.
But as far as the original card goes, it's Blue Garruk. He untaps your artifacts. He gets you mana. He ramps you, and then he turns your stuff into giant robots of doom. It's everything I want from a planeswalker that deals with artifacts. I mean, outside of Tezzeret Agent of Bolas, because he just shoots people with his gun arm. But you can't run that in here because it's blue black, and this is mono blue. We can't get everything we want, but sometimes we can get what we need.
So I want to go through this real quick. So we've seen Ariel on Worry Beads. We've seen Triton on Runechanter's Pike, and you also have Little Sebastian in here.
I mean, how could you not have Sebastian? He leads the undersea band, and in this case, it's Hedron Crab. And if you don't know what Hedron Crab is, I'm sorry your life has been so sheltered and you don't have any fun with sea creatures. But from the original Zendikar, for a 0/2, pay 1 blue mana to get a crab. Pretty nice. It's a crab, and it has landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, target player puts the top 3 cards of their library into their graveyard. Yay!
Once a limited strategy, it's here in this deck.
Right. Because again, who's going to waste time killing your Hedron Crab when you're milling yourself like a goober? There's no black in the deck. It's not an obvious strategy. And so like the first time people play against this deck is going to be, what is he doing? What is she doing? Whoever is running the deck. I don't understand what's going on. None of these cards make sense. And actually, that's how I build most of my decks. Bribery is one of the worst cards to play against most of my decks because I have terrible choices in creatures because I build towards synergy as opposed to just big, powerful things. You guys can see that here. None of this by itself is good. No single creature in here by itself is really good. Maybe Laboratory Maniac, maybe. But
see, this is bad because I have the wheels turning in my head now. I'm like, okay, we need the seagull from Little Mermaid. Where's the giant albatross? The Homeland's garbage card. And we need a cephalid for Ursula. I don't know where that is right now.
Oh, if you want to do that, you could probably go with
what's the good one? Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, Empress Galena would actually be good.
I mean, and the ability being on flavor is super point as well.
Yeah.
There you go.
She wants your voice.
We might have gotten you a good card for the deck.
There's a good card in the deck. We got
No, you have a lot of good cards in this deck. Trust me. I'm saying a good card for the deck that's not in there yet.
Oh, that's right.
So
I just wish you could throw one Gerard Caspian for Prince. What's his name?
Prince Eric.
Yeah, there you go.
So now
seriously, if you were in my play group, I'd totally be okay with you buying a Gerard and literally just drawing a blue mana symbol over top with white mana symbol just to play in this deck. I'd be like, nope, no, that is a blue card now.
No, I personally know that every single person in my former commander play group would be totally fine with that. We'd be like, you know what? You need a Prince Eric for your deck. Go for it.
No. Because Kody knows our commander group. Literally, you would show up with this and be like, okay, in 4 weeks, we're all coming back with Disney-themed commander decks. They have to be on flavor or you're not allowed to play. Everybody pick a movie right now.
That's the best.
So before I moved, we did that with the Theros gods. We each got randomly assigned a Theros god, and we had a god off. And so that was a lot of fun. But so I have to ask: is Flounder the Fleet Swallower?
In this case, yes.
I like that.
The shark, if you want to be better off, because definitely better the shark. There's not really a good Flounder. I wasn't actually thinking about Flounder when I was first building it. I was building more around just the flavor mechanic. But now that we're talking about full on movie flavor, we can find a Flounder.
I think
we definitely find a Flounder.
So I think a good Flounder.
Old school OG Leviathan popped in my head for that.
Yeah, this is Flounder. My sacrifice these islands.
He's been roiding a little bit. It is what it is. He has a little bit of Bacne.
He's just tired of getting pushed around by all those bigger fish in the ocean. He's just had enough. He's seeing a personal trainer. He's taking all of the stuff. And now he's just huge.
So the other thing, though, that I think about when I think of Flounder is it reminds me of the Silvergill from Lorwyn. So the Silvergill, if you think of the original art for Silvergill Adept, he's kind of gold a little bit. He's got that orange hue to them, and it shows up in a lot of art. So in the card Familiar's Ruse, which you have in the deck, which is blue for an instant. As an additional cost to cast Familiar's Ruse, return a creature you control to its owner's hand and counter target spell. But the art in it has a silvergill in it, which is like a very gold colored fish, and that's kind of as close as we're gonna get to playing, a yellow fish in Merfolk. But yeah, so maybe we could throw in Silvergill Adept as the flounder.
Okay,
I mean,
so I'm gonna be the bad guy, and I'm gonna reel us in a little bit because probably most of our listeners don't want to talk Little Mermaid. They want to talk a little more competitive Magic. So even though we will probably talk a lot more Little Mermaid off air, but anyway, so Russell, if we're playing more of a competitive game, even though you have the Little Mermaid flair in here, what would be like your best start for this deck?
obviously, the best start for the deck is going to be a couple lands. Ideally, Sapphire Medallion, because that's the best mana ramp you can get in mono blue, and just some way to start drawing cards. If you can start like in the early turns with the Gaia Reach Sanitarium, it's going to be really good because you're going to start the slow milling, but you're also going to be filtering your cards a lot quicker. But anything where you can just set up your not necessarily defensive, because there's very little defensive in here. You've got Cyclonic Rift and some other things, but it's going to be your inobtrusiveness. The fact that you're doing next to nothing except sort of keeping yourself alive. And by, playing little things like Chunk Diver and, Drowner Initiate, things that have such minor effects, and worst case scenario will stop a thing from hitting you in the face if you need to. Yeah, it's just going to be just a matter of you have to play smarter with flavor and theme decks than you do with decks that are just good. Decks that are just good, you have to think mechanically, and there's a lot of strategy involved. But when you're playing with a theme and flavor deck, you have to play the table. You have to tell the story as you're doing it to keep everybody entertained, so they kind of want to see where it's going next, and show that you're really not a huge threat until it's too late, and then you laugh hysterically.
I think that's a great point because there's a lot of parallels to me last night when I was playing a very underpowered deck. Is that everybody ignored me for the longest time, and that was kind of my shields up because I was just dropping like little saplings here or there, and they were all just beating the heck out of each other. Then all of a sudden they look over, I'm like, I have a giant board, deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really understated how often people will just let the player who's not doing anything go, and how many games are won by the player who was behind just trying to get back into the game when they go, oh, and now I'm flush with resources, and you three or more have been hitting each other in the face with fish all day. I got this. That's cool. We're done.
Yeah. No, and I know that's like our play group is very similar to that. It's like I want to see where this is going. And so just to have a cool theme like this and a very you admitted yourself, kind of, at least from an outsider's perspective, it doesn't look like it's going anywhere. That's kind of a cool way to go about it, where you're like, I just want to see how these disparate cards kind of pull together and have a strategy. So you've said that you've basically said it yourself, that you're milling yourself to pull do a trash or treasure. You're pulling stuff out of the depths of the sea to play out. So what are we talking about for win conditions?
All right. So the biggest win condition for the mill strategy, the self-mill strategy, is obviously Laboratory Maniac, because it's there, it's classic. It literally, if you get there, great, cool, you won with Laboratory Maniac. I guess that's cool. That's
the problem is that everybody knows what Laboratory Maniac is, and as soon as you drop it, their ears pop up.
Right, but you never drop it unless you're winning with it the second you drop it.
Fair.
You don't. Yeah, you never play Laboratory Maniac onto a board unless you are going to draw your last card, if possible. If it winds up in the graveyard, I go, oh, well, I guess it's gone, because it's pretty much gone. We can't recur creatures very well. However, there is one of my favorite cards, and this can get somebody out of the middle of nowhere, is called Psychic Spiral. So Psychic Spiral is an instant for 4 and a blue. Shuffle all cards from your graveyard into your library. Target player puts that many cards from the top of their library into their graveyard. So you spend a lot of your time just chunking your own stuff into your graveyard. It's a good chance you'll hit this at some point, possibly, but there's a lot of instant and sorcery recursion in blue, which is really nice that they've given that to blue lately. And the fact that this is instant, you can set up yourself and get people right before they draw. And it gets most of your anti-mill protection out of the way, except for like the old school Kozilek and Ulamog, because they get shuffled in and there's not much you can do about it unless you start running things like Ashnod's Altar, Tormod's Crypt. Wow, that was hard. Tormod's Crypt.
I'm proud of you getting there.
Thanks. And so that doesn't fit the theme or anything. It's terrible. Nobody wants.
If you're
that.
playing against people who are playing those cards and playing those degenerately, then they don't deserve this deck.
That's perfectly fair. You're 100% correct. Thank you for understanding how special this is.
No, I'm not even like being like a dick or anything like that. This deck is fantastic. I really, really like it. Like it's 100% on flavor. It looks like a complete blast to play, and it's everything I want a commander deck to be. About 3 weeks ago, I mean, I think I've said this already once tonight. I told Kody and on air, I'm like, I'm not playing like super good commander decks anymore. I'm playing only fun commander decks because that's what the format's supposed to be, and this is exactly the kind of deck that I want to play now.
Except you still play your Norn deck.
Norn's not a good deck. I took out all the good cards and just put in the most chaosy cards possible. There's not even a win condition in that deck anymore. like literally, that deck does not win.
That's awesome. All right, so we've got some great win conditions with Psychic Spiral, and we have obviously the classics like Lab Maniac, which is kind of subtly good in this deck because it's not like you said, Russell. It's not a deck that people would see like, oh, it's blue black, so it's mill. So it's also kind of innocuous in that it's Merfolk, and it's just these kind of weird cards that people wouldn't pick up, like Illusionist Bracers and Junk Diver and stuff like that. So it's not like things that people would immediately associate with mill. So you're kind of throwing them off the scent a little bit. So I think this deck is great. This looks like a lot of fun.
Cool. I mean, it's a lot of fun to build these decks as well, and I think it's part of like, I mean, Matt, I love that you're pushing towards more flavor builds too, because I think it's more fun with the building process too, because I know so you don't get to play it very often either, right?
Correct.
And when you don't get to play very often, and sometimes your only interactions with your cards and your decks are building and adjusting them, and if you're just trying to make it powerful to win games, how is that fun?
Yeah,
I'm right there with you. I'm so like before we started playing. I mean, I'm looking through Fallen Empires for Thalids and Fungus cards because I need more fungus in my life for my decks.
Nice. Yeah, no, it's super awesome.
Well, so this was definitely super fun to have you on, Russell. We're gonna go ahead and close things out because we are closing in on just under an hour. So,
and we can probably joke around and talk Commander for like 10 hours. And unfortunately, I would listen to it, but I'd probably be the only one.
I mean, I listen to it too.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as we've said in previous episode, my wife passively doesn't listen to this podcast, so that's at least that counts for at least 2 and -half listens,
which is better than actively not listening to it.
Yeah, we've already gone over that, and we will have a link to Russell's list in the show notes. And remember that you can reach out and talk to us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, actually, as @FishCastMTG.
And I'm looking forward to every one of our followers commenting on Russell's deck and trying to get this as point on flavor as possible, because I know we did a really bad job trying to get it there, and I know we have some really smart listeners and some really clever listeners out there. So I want to see what they have to say.
I'm looking at you, Mr. Kai Guy. I want your input on this wholeheartedly.
The gauntlet has been dropped, Kyle.
So remember, again, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook as @FishcastMTG. You can contact myself as @NotCodySmith on Twitter. Matt, where can we find you?
I'm still at Matthew Caudill 8 until Twitter kicks me off.
Still? They haven't kicked you off for saying something racist or sexist or anything like that?
The Facebook, the Instagram, the Pornhub, they all kicked me off, but Twitter's okay with me still. Ironically enough.
That's not ironic, actually. Twitter leaves a lot of people on there that shouldn't be there. And Russell, where can we find you before we get political?
Yes. Also on Twitter @Rogue Artificer.
If you have a longer form question, feel free to email us at fishcastmtg@gmail.com. Our cover art was made by Tessa and Hunter Pruitt, and our stream / assorted art for the channel was made by @Ishton on Twitter, who is totally awesome and does awesome, amazing stuff. He's working on a really cool Ravnica comic right now, which I'm looking forward to reading. And if you like...
Oh, whoa. First time I'm hearing about this. You're going to tweet out, we got to wrap up. Tweet out some information so we can figure out where to read it, how much it costs, things like that.
Oh, yeah. No, I at him on everything. I tweet out basically about anything that has to do with his art. So he's
at me on that too, so I actually read your tweet.
No,
and I can find this comment.
I refuse. But remember, if you like what we're doing here, please rate and subscribe and review us in the Apple or Google Play podcast apps. And that costs nothing. So just like what we're doing, subscribe to us on YouTube, and share with your friends on Facebook and Instagram and all that fun stuff. Or you could support us for as many space bucks as you prefer on Patreon at patreon.com/fishcastmtg. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time, and thank you, Russell, for coming on and supporting us
Especially
for so
Russell.
long.
Thank you so much.
You've been a great supporter of the show, and you got Mike his fancy new microphone that he's got, and you've been helping out with art and stuff. So thank you so much. It really does mean a lot to us.
Hey, anything to help, and it's been a blast. Thanks.
Yeah, well,
this has been insane amount of fun. My mouth hurts from laughing, so you know what? Great Saturday night. So
yeah,
couldn't have been better.
We'll definitely have to have you back on again once your new show kicks off.
Yeah, we'll do that. I'll be better about promoting that one, because it'll be more than just me, and I want other people's hard work to be trumpeted from the rooftops, because they deserve it.
And at that point, Kody and I are going to blindside with our Disney themed decks.
Yeah.
I cannot wait. You have no idea.
It's totally happening.
My Robin Hood themed deck is going to beat up your Little Mermaid deck. I am throwing down the arrow right now. Thank you very much.
Love that forest. Okay.
Thank you very much, everybody, for your time, and we'll see you next week.
Have a good night, everyone.